ClubExpress Resource Scheduling Administration. The Resource Scheduling module allows clubs and associations to define resources that can be rented or reserved by members. This module is suitable for many different types of clubs. For example, tennis clubs that allow members to reserve a tennis court, sailing and yacht clubs or canoe and kayak clubs with a fleet of boats that members can rent, ski clubs with a lodge where members and their families can rent rooms, clubs with a clubhouse that includes meeting or banquet rooms, and clubs with equipment that their members can check out on a daily or hourly basis. This video goes into detail about how administrators and coordinators configure the system, create resources, and manage reservations. There's a companion video called Resource Scheduling, Making a Reservation, that shows how users reserve resources and manage their own reservations. Please watch that video as it sets the stage for the administration options shown in this tutorial. In that video, a Balloon Club member reserved two resources, a piece of equipment rented on an hourly basis, and a cabin for a multi-night stay. A few notes before we begin. Resources can be rented hourly in 15, 30, or 60-minute increments, or daily, such as for a sailboat or canoe, or overnight, such as for a ski lodge room. Each resource can have different properties and rental rules. A club can define a setup period before the reservation starts and a cleanup period for after the reservation finishes. Resources can have different fees at different times of the day, week, month, or year, and clubs can define a resource setup fee and different fees for members and non-members. Resources can also have blocks of times where the resource is not available, perhaps for maintenance or repairs. Reservations operate using a shopping cart metaphor. A reservation can include more than one resource reserved at the same or at different times. The checkout process links the shopping cart to the standard ClubExpress transaction and payment system. Initially, the resource scheduler is in test mode, as it is in this tutorial. In test mode, you can do everything except create transactions, so the resources reserved here cannot actually incur charges. This is an optional module. The one-time fee to activate this module for your website is $500. Please contact ClubExpress to activate it for your site. Let's look at how an administrator or coordinator can manage resources and reservations. We're currently logged in as an administrator, and the resource scheduler has been placed on the menu. Before going into the administration screens, let's quickly review what the user sees. Clicking on the menu item displays the resource scheduler screen, and you'll notice for this demo club it's still in test mode. The screen shows a customizable heading that describes the items, and if a cancellation policy has been defined, clicking that button will display it. If you have a reservation in process with one or more resources in your reservation cart, a Show Cart button will appear at the top of the screen, allowing you to jump to the cart to make changes or check out. The body of the page lists the resources grouped by category. Click the View button on the right side to see the details of the resources within each category. Each category can have a descriptive heading and detailed information about each of the items. Click the Hide button to hide the details. The user clicks the Reserve button to begin the reservation process, and the scheduling calendar is shown. So how are these resources defined and how are they managed? Let's go to Resource Scheduling Administration. There are two ways to manage the resource schedules. Administrators and function coordinators can click the Edit icon in the control panel to access the admin side of the function, or when viewing any page in the resource scheduler, coordinators and administrators can click the Edit icon in the Page Tools widget on the right side of the screen. The resource scheduler function has two main administration screens, one for the resources and the other for the reservations. You can specify which should initially be displayed by making a choice on the Configuration Options page. At the top of the screen is a search panel that allows you to filter the list of resources by category and resource status. The Results panel lists each matching resource and its status. Clicking the Reservation Manager button displays the other main screen on the admin side of this module, allowing you to view and manage resource reservations. Let's go back to the Resource Manager screen. There are buttons that appear on both screens. Clicking the Configure button displays a drop-down menu of configuration options. Select Configure Categories to define categories of resources that your club or association makes available for rent or borrowing. Categories allow you to group similar resources, for example, tennis courts, and separate dissimilar resources that have different properties, for example, Meeting rooms. The grid shows a list of resource categories, and each row shows how many resources are currently in that category, and whether the category contains hourly or daily items. The Maintain column has icons for each category, and we'll come back to these soon. Resources can be configured to allow either hourly or daily reservations, and the options for each differ slightly. For this tutorial, we'll add two categories, one for hourly and one for daily, to demonstrate the differences. This balloon club has 3 outdoor pavilions that they rent by the hour for small parties. It also rents cabins by the day, allowing for multi-night reservations. Category settings let you define default values for items placed in that category. Keep in mind that most of these defaults can be overridden for each resource item. Click the Add Category button to create a new category. Let's add the Pavilion category. To define a category with an hourly reservation type, in the Basic Settings area, enter the category name, select Hourly for the reservation type. The reservation unit for resources for hourly items can be by quarter hour, half hour, or hourly. This setting also controls when reservations can start. For example, quarter-hour reservations can start at any quarter-hour boundary, but hourly reservations can only start at the top of the hour. Category status allows you to activate, temporarily deactivate, or fully decommission whole categories of resources. We'll choose Available so the category is visible as soon as resources have been put into that category. Reservation Access allows you to control who can see and make reservations for the resources in this category. For example, tennis courts might be available to members only, while meeting rooms are available to anyone. Note that if you want to make some resources of a specific type available to members only, while others available to anyone, just create 2 categories. For example, tennis courts 1 through 4 could be reserved by anyone, while tennis courts 5 through 12 are for members only. Requires approval determines whether reservations in this category must be approved by an administrator. This setting may apply to non-members only or to everyone. Pavilion rentals don't need approvals. For reservations that incur a fee, specify the financial account into which reservation fees will be accumulated. In the Contact Information section, select a member to act as the contact for resources in this category. This is optional, and you can also define a contact at the resource item level. In the Reservation Length section, check Fix Schedule if all reservations in this category are for the same length of time. For example, tennis courts can only be reserved for 1 hour. If so, then specify the number of units. Note that if reservation units is defined, say quarter hour, 1 hour would be 4 units. Uncheck Fix Schedule if reservations can have different duration. Our pavilions can be rented for a minimum of 2 hours and a maximum of 10 hours, and allow for partial hours, so the member could select 3.5 hours. Specify the default, minimum, and maximum number of units. Check Allow Partial Units to allow users to make reservations in smaller increments than the base units. For example, if units is defined as hourly, reservations can be in 1/2 or 1/4 hour increments. Click Prorate Fee if the fee should be adjusted for partial units. We'll enable this for pavilion rentals. Then define how much time must be blocked for prep and cleanup before a reservation and after each reservation, and these times will be flagged as unavailable. In the Fees and Times section, specify fees that are charged to members and optionally to non-members for reserving a resource in this category. Fees are based on the specified units. For example, if the fee is $100 per hour, a 4-hour reservation costs $400. Note that we specified that partial units are okay, and prorated has been selected. A reservation for 1.5 hours would cost $150, and a 1 3/4 hour reservation would be $175. If prorating was not selected, either of those reservations would be charged $200. Specify the fees that are charged to members and optionally to non-members for setting up a resource for a reservation in this category. Click the clock icon to specify the range of times when resources in this category are available. You'll see a pop-up panel to specify the earliest reservation time, followed by a second pop-up panel to specify the latest reservation time. For example, unlighted tennis courts might only be available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but a meeting room might be available till 10 p.m. If you select the number of days in advance a reservation can be made, this is the maximum number of days out a user can make a reservation, and leave it blank to disable. In the Resource Usage Description section, Usage Description entry determines whether a description is shown in the resource calendar grid for existing reserved times. If none is specified, then reserved blocks are shown as unavailable without any further information. If optional or required is specified, Reserved Item Display determines what is shown in the calendar for reserved blocks. Either the word reserved, or the username, and/or the usage description. If required is selected and the usage description is included, then when making the reservation, the usage description field is flagged as required and the member has to fill it out. Otherwise, the field is optional. And in the Additional Settings section, Allow User Notifications specifies whether the person making the reservation can generate a short email to a list of other people to confirm the reservation. For example, he or she might want to notify 3 other people in a tennis foursome about the date, time, and the court that was reserved. Check Notify Admins and Contact on reservation if the system should send the notification email to the administrator whenever a reservation is made. Check Prompt for Setup Instructions if this category of resources might be set up in different ways. For example, a tennis court does not require setup, but a reservation for a meeting room might have very specific setup requests from the reservation holder. Reservation Rules allows you to specify a club's rules for reserving a resource in this category, and QuickBook Item's name will only appear if QuickBooks has been enabled, so when transactions are exported to QuickBooks, it allows you to specify the item used for reservations that impose a fee. Click Save to create the new category. Now let's define a category with a daily reservation type, in this case for the cabins, configured for overnight stays. In the basic settings area, there are the same settings we saw for hourly reservations, except there are no reservation units, so we enter the information. We can also select the contact. Reservation length is conditional based on choices made in the Fees and Times section. If your resource can be reserved overnight, check the box for resources are used for overnight reservations in Fees and Times. Check Fixed Schedule if all reservations in this category are for the same number of days. Uncheck Fixed Schedule if the reservation can have different durations, or if you want to set a minimum and maximum reservation duration. And if overnight reservations are not allowed, the user will only be able to select a single day for the reservation. In Fees and Times, specify fees that are charged to members and optionally to non-members for reserving a resource in this category. Click the clock icon to specify a range of times when the resources in this category are available. You'll see the pop-up panel to select the earliest reservation time, followed by the second pop-up panel to specify the latest reservation time. For example, a 3 p.m. check-in time and 11 a.m. check-out time for the cabins. The remaining fields on the screen are the same for the hourly categories. Click Save to save your changes or Cancel to close the form without saving. Now back at the category screen. Click the Display Sequence button to control the order in which categories are displayed for the Opening Resource Scheduler screen. The Standard Sequence dialog is displayed, so you can reorder the category display if desired. In the Maintain column, there are several icons. Click the Edit icon to edit properties of this resource category. Click the Edit Description icon to edit the detailed description of this category of resources that is displayed on the main Resource Scheduler screen. The Advanced Content Editor is displayed to allow you to create fully formatted descriptions, and it can also be customized at the individual resource level. Click the Edit User Agreement icon to create or edit the user agreement or waiver associated with this category of resources. Again, the Advanced Content Editor is displayed. If present, this agreement is shown during the reservation process, and users must agree to it in order to complete the reservation. It can also be customized at the individual resource level. Click the Customize Daily options to customize the default available times and fees for each resource in the category. Again, these settings can also be customized at the individual resource level. 3 settings can be customized for each day of the week. Select the times when a reservation is available for this day. Either set the default to the times originally specified for the category, or set custom times for this day. For example, a meeting room may only be available on Sundays from 2 p.m. onwards, but available based on the category settings on all other days. You can set the fee charged to members and optionally to non-members. For example, Club Canoes for Rent may have one fee during the week, but a higher fee on weekends. And set the availability for the resource. For example, a grass tennis court may be available on every day of the week except Mondays to give it time to recover. Set the customize option for each day as necessary, then click Save to save your changes or Cancel to return without saving. Click the Resource Sequence icon to control the sequence in which resources within the category are displayed, and the standard display sequence dialog is shown. And you can click the Delete icon to remove a category. This option is only available for categories that have no resources assigned to the category. Now back to the Resource Manager. Select Configure Options to customize options at the module level. You can select a contact person to be notified whenever a resource is reserved. For many clubs, this will be your primary facility manager. This setting can be overridden at the category level to specify different contact people for each resource category. For example, tennis courts versus meeting rooms. You can also control who can see that person's email address and phone. Specify which main admin page should be displayed when you first open the administrative side of the module, either the Reservation Manager or the Resource Manager. When resources are reserved, specify the mailing list category into which these users will be assigned, and specify the default financial account to be used for reservations with a fee. Click Save to save your changes and return to the main admin screen, or Cancel to return without saving. Select Configure Main Page HTML to define the introductory text that will be placed at the top of the module's opening page above the list of categories. You'll see the Advanced Content Editor, which allows you to create fully formatted text, including images and links. Select Configure Cancellation Policy to define your club's policy for canceling reservations. Again, you'll see the Advanced Content Editor, where you can enter content. This policy is displayed on a pop-up screen accessible from the Cancellation Policy button at the top of the module's opening page. Clicking the Reports button displays a standard report wizard. The system lists a number of reports related to this module. Just select a report and click Next and follow the screens that let you filter the report, choose the output format, and run the report. Click the Checkin Desk button to display a screen that lets you track and record if a user has checked in for a reservation. Use the Search Filter panel to limit what items are shown in the Results panel. You can show all items, or a specific category, or a specific item. The filter defaults to today's date, and you can change that, and the results will be only for that date. If you leave the date blank in Search, you can identify individual reservation items by their reference number. And if you select Show Pending Open Items Only, the list will only show not checked in items. A reservation may include one or more resources, and this screen shows each resource reserved by a user, either a member or non-member, as a separate line, with the ability to check in or check out the user for each resource. Click the member's name to view the contact information, and click the Not Checked In text to check in the reservation holders. The text will change to Checked In. You can also click the Checked In text to check out the user at the end of their reservation. Now let's add a couple of resources. First, we'll add the pavilions, an hourly resource, and then we'll add some cabins, and they are daily overnight rentals. Click the Add Resource button to create a new resource. This screen contains information that's very similar to creating a resource category, but the properties are specific to this resource item. Fill in the 3 required fields, the resource name, and specify a shorter name that displays at the top of the Schedule or Calendar column. Then choose the appropriate category for this type of resource. There are many optional fields for a resource. Click the arrow icon to expand this section. These fields are mostly the same as those we demonstrated when creating a category, so we'll just do an overview. Any values that you don't specify will be inherited from the category level settings, and most values let you specify that the category settings should always be used. In the basic settings, you can control the status, access, approval requirement, and unit type for hourly reservations only for individual resources within a category. For any of these properties, you can select a value or specify that the resource use the value specified by its category. For example, One tennis court might be temporarily out of service, another could be available to members only, while another is available to non-members but requires approval. Or one activity room could be reserved in half-hour units, while another is only reservable in 1-hour units. All 3 of the club's pavilions are going to use the settings from the category, except this one, the green pavilion, because it has some additional features including extra lighting that makes it available for evening gatherings. Unlike the other pavilions, this one is available until 11 p.m., and it's only reserved in blocks of 4 hours. It also has a higher rental fee, so we set this to fixed schedule and specify 4 hourly units. Then set the fees and select the times that this item is available, if different from that of the specified category. We'll skip most of the other fields so that they inherit from the category. However, unlike categories, you can add an image of this resource, and it's displayed when viewing the items in the category. So here we'll upload a photo. When we click Save, the resource is created within the category. Now we'll quickly add another, a cabin available for overnight rentals. Click Add Resource, fill in the basics, and any fields that don't inherit from the category that we set up earlier. This cabin has special rules with a minimum stay of 2 nights and a higher price than others in the category. We'll add a photograph. Then we can save the new resource. Let's assume that we've added a few other pavilions and cabins, along with their photos and descriptions. Now let's take a quick look at the main resource scheduler to see how the 2 new categories and resource items are displayed. Here we see the pavilions and the cabins. So let's go back to the Resource Manager. In the result list, the Maintain columns has several icons. The icons are very similar to those shown earlier for each category, but now control the properties of these individual resources. For example, you can edit a resource, perhaps to change its status to unavailable or decommissioned, or to update its photo. You can also click the icons to change its detailed description, create or edit a special agreement or waiver, and customize the times that this resource is available. Now that we've explored the resources, let's take a look at the reservations. When you click the Reservation Manager button, the display switches to the other main admin screen in the Resource Scheduling module. As mentioned, a reservation can include more than one item. For example, a yacht club may rent its clubhouse out for a member's daughter's wedding, where multiple rooms will be needed for different times of the day. This can be handled as a single reservation. The Reservation Manager can display data at the reservation or at the item level. Make the appropriate selection in the View By section to toggle between the 2 levels. The search options are slightly different at each level. For example, at the reservation level, the start date is the date the entire reservation transaction was made, and you can select the user type and reservation status. When at the item level, the start date is the date each individual item has been reserved for, and you can select the reservation type and item status. Click the Search button to view the matching results. At the reservation level, the results display the date that the reservation was made, its reference number, the member or non-member who made the reservation, its status, the number of items in the reservation, and the total fee paid, if any. At the item level, the results display the date and time range for which the item is reserved, whether it's hourly or daily, the reservation reference number, the resource name, member and non-member name, item status, and the fee paid for that item, if any. The buttons to the right of the search panel are similar to those found in the Resource Manager screen. Clicking the Resource Manager button displays the other main screen on the admin side of this module, allowing you to view and manage resources. The Configure, Reports, and Checkin Desk buttons perform the same functions as on the Resource Manager screen. Click the Approve Reservations button to approve reservations for resources that require approval. The screen will display only those items where the status is Waiting for Approval. The details of each reservation requiring approval are shown. Check the box on the left for each reservation you want to approve, or the box in the header to approve them all, and click Approve Checked Items. Use this screen only for those items that you want to approve. There's a different process that we'll get to shortly for denying items waiting for approval or canceling items that have already been approved either by the admin or that did not need approval. Note that when admins or module coordinators make reservations, approval is handled automatically when the reservation is made. Click the Add Reservation button to add a reservation. This displays the scheduling calendar on the user side of the module where the items can be reserved. Please watch the video tutorial, Resource Scheduling, Making a Reservation, because it shows how users reserve resources. Unlike regular users, administrators have some additional options when making reservations. For daily reservations, you can mark dates as unavailable. When the form is saved, the resource cell in the grid is disabled. For hourly reservations, admin can also make copies, reserving this resource in the same time slot on another or multiple dates. When the copy reservation box is checked, the Next button at the bottom of the dialog changes. Clicking this button displays a new panel in the reservation wizard, allowing you to make single or multiple copies of the reservation. Check Make One Copy to copy the same resource to another date as part of the same reservation. Just specify the date and click Next. Or you can check Make Multiple Copies to copy the same resource over multiple dates. For example, if a bridge club always meets from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Wednesdays in Meeting Room 2, you can build the reservations for a full year using this feature. When you specify daily copies, enter a start date and specify the copy frequency and range. Up to 50 copies can be made as part of a single reservation. When you specify weekly copies, enter a start date and frequency. Specify the days or days of the week, and then the range, and up to 52 copies can be made as part of a single reservation. When you specify monthly copies, enter a start date. The frequency can be specified in two ways: on a specific day of the month or on the specific day of the week, from the first to the last day of that month, and every month or every nth month. The range is also specified. Up to 24 copies can be made as part of a single reservation. When you press Next, the reservation includes the same resource on multiple days based on the copy instructions. A green check mark indicates there are dates without a conflict. So when you click one of the Save buttons, these resources will be reserved. A red exclamation point indicates dates with a conflict or a date and time when the resource is unavailable. When you click one of the Save buttons, these resource dates and times will be skipped. When the checkout screen is displayed to a reservation created by an administrator, you specify whether you're creating the reservation for yourself or for another member, where you're prompted to select the member, or for a non-member, where you're prompted for the contact information. Then click Complete the Reservation to complete the checkout. Now back to the Reservation Manager. There are several icons that appear in the Maintain column when viewing reservations. Clicking the Reservation Details icon displays a screen showing the details of that reservation. For approved reservations, you have the option to cancel or keep individual items. If the reservation is waiting for approval, you can approve, reject, or cancel items. If you reject an item, a reason field is displayed, and the value entered here will be part of the email about the rejection. If any items are canceled and a fee has been paid, the user will receive a credit in his or her account. Click the Resend Confirmation icon to have the system resend the confirmation email to the person who made the reservation. If he or she wanted others to be notified, those emails will also be sent. Click the Cancel Entire Reservation item to cancel the reservation. You'll be prompted to confirm this, and if a fee has been paid, the user will receive a credit in his or her account. When viewing the reservation items, icons only for reservation details and canceling are available for each item. So now you've seen how administrators and coordinators can use the Resource Scheduler to configure categories and items, and how to review and manage all reservations. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.